Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, this is episode 158 of the show.
Wow. I don't have one for that.
That's all right. Hey, today we got a terrific couple of guests on. We'll be talking to Matt McKeever and Craig Harris of the Pocket Pennant Run game, and they're going to talk about Edition 2.0, Ron.
Version 2.0, which comes out tomorrow as we tape this on Veterans Day. Fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic.
I like what they've done with 2.0, and there was nothing wrong with 1, but they really did add a few things, especially with the software. Holy cow.
Especially with the software and the fact that they didn't compromise on what they wanted to do and put in a lot of new, jam-packed features into a very tidy design is great.
Yeah, they did. Hey, so ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is the website, 978-751-DICE, that's the text line. And we want your Black Friday sales. If you're a game developer, then you're having a sale this Black Friday, 2022 Black Friday sale. You need to get a hold of us. We're trying to track everybody down, but if you have something, send us an email, digitaltodice@yahoo.com. That's the best way, digitaltodice@yahoo.com. Give us all the details, and we will mention that on our annual Black Friday sale, which is coming up in probably about 10 days or so. Again, I want to thank you to the new Patreons we got that are supporting the show. Thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so it's over on patreon.com/digitaltodice. Thank you so much for helping supporting the show as we are in year 4 here, and we continue on. So again, get those Black Friday sales into us. That's the big thing. And if you know of anybody too, if you're just one of the players in the community and you heard of something, let us know and we'll go check it out. So it's not only the developers, it's the people in the community. If you hear anything, let us know. We really want to make this Black Friday a nice big one like it was last year, and we can help developers sell some games, turn people onto some sales and the whole bit. So that's the idea behind the Black Friday show. All right, so without further ado, let's talk to Matt McKeever and Craig Harris of Pocket Pennant Run. Joining us on the Dice Line for their second tour of duty here on the Digital to Dice podcast from Pocket Pennant Run, we have Matt McKeever and Craig Harris. Welcome back, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So we were looking, the last time we had you guys on was almost a year ago for Pocket Pennant Run OG. Can we call it OG?
Sure. Part 1, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you guys have been busy the last 11 months, and you're coming out with Pocket Pennant Run, the second edition, and that's coming out when? Tomorrow, the 11th?
Tomorrow, November 11th, yeah.
November 11th. That's going to be ready to go, ready to order. And that is both a print version and a PDF version?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And both come with the software. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So whether you order the print version or the PDF version, you do get the software. We're going to get into all the goodies that the software offers in just one second. All right. So what is new in 2.0 of Pocket Pennant Run?
Well, like previously, I kind of was involved in the game design part, and Craig was in charge of the software design, though we kind of check each other's work and we add things and give fresh ideas. Generally speaking, I was working on the game design. Craig was working on the software. So I'll let Craig talk about the software. As far as the game, I would say really 2 big things that we aimed to do with the second edition. One, we listened to a lot of the feedback from the community about things that maybe needed to be tweaked or things that weren't unclear. For example, the hit and run was very confusing, so we fixed that. So the first thing was just to refine everything, refine the rules, make everything a little bit more clear and concise. It's already a quick playing game, but we wanted it to play even quicker. So we kind of consolidated and refined things. And the second goal was to add some depth to the game, more depth, without making it more complex. We had a lot of questions about, are we going to add more ratings? Are we going to add more charts? And we chose not to because we felt like the simplicity of the game was really its selling point. So we wanted to try to find ways to make the game have a little bit more depth, a little bit more things you could do, but not make it any more complicated or complex. So that's why we added things like the rare plays, just little simple things like pop-ups, ground rule doubles, stealing home, triple plays, things that you would see in a normal baseball game that weren't present in our game at that time. We also listened to community feedback about things like handedness advantages. We felt like in the first game, I think everybody collectively sort of felt like maybe the handedness advantage was a little bit too extreme. So we've changed the rules a little bit to make that not such a big deal. And then one other big thing that we did is we shot to make the results a little bit more realistic. We found that we were getting things like maybe a few too many home runs, maybe the batting average was a little bit low. So we tweaked every chart just a little bit to really really dial in the realism of the game. So, and we did a lot of play testing, a lot of simulations of games, and I think we really narrowed it down to where we're getting really, really realistic results, both for the modern game and the dead ball game, which is a whole new element that we added kind of last minute. Craig was like, let's do this dead ball thing. I said, okay, let's figure it out. So we figured out these dead ball charts, and we're really happy with those as well. They both the modern dead ball charts play really well, and it's an even more fun game than it was before because there's more to it. It feels more realistic, and we're super proud of that element of it. And then so much has happened on the software side as well.
Yeah, let's stick with the cards and dice version for a second here. So you kept the charts pretty much the same, meaning that you have the 4 columns A, B, C, D, and then 1 through 12. So you roll the 12-sided dice, and then you go to the column A, B, C, or D to determine. So that hasn't changed. So the core of the game hasn't changed. You just changed some of the results to give it some more depth. Was there ever any thought of going beyond 1 to 12, maybe a 1 to 20, or beyond A to D, maybe an A to E or A to F?
Yeah, we definitely thought about adding maybe an extra rating because, as you add more ratings, you can get more smaller differences, between each and get more realistic. We played around with the idea of adding an E. And we never really played around with the idea of adding more results in 12, though. Obviously, if you did that, it would make for more realism. There are really 2 reasons. One, people seem to like the game the way it was, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. So people like it the way it was, so we kept it that way. Plus, the other thing too is if we want to keep the charts on poker-sized cards, all of a sudden things are going to get real cramped when we start adding more columns and more rows.
They're playing deck-sized cards, right?
Exactly.
If you buy the printed set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we didn't necessarily want to make that more crowded. Plus, we really felt like we had the charts dialed in. And if we added another column or more rows, we'd basically have to start from scratch in trying to, figure out the ratings and figure out the results and stuff. So that would have been a really big project. Now, Craig and I have talked about the idea of maybe at some point in the future, maybe doing a more advanced version of the game where we incorporate maybe more analytics and more results and things of that nature. But that's kind of down the road. We really wanted to focus on this edition, just getting everything right with this version of the game. And we really feel like we've done that. And we've cleaned up so much stuff. So
was there any thought now, especially with the expansion of the Japanese leagues and, hopefully in the future, expansion of the minor leagues of coming up with specific charts for those? I mean, I'm just shot here because I really don't know how close those levels of baseball kind of correspond with quote unquote modern 100-year-old baseball as it is. I mean, it's kind of harder to play test, I suppose, that sort of thing. So is there any thought to that? Because I know that the Koreans, for instance, play a lot more closer to dead ball as opposed to the modern American, Earl Weaver ball.
Yeah, we've never thought about that. I was even a little bit reluctant to add dead ball because I was just like, I don't want to add too many elements and add too many different charts. But Craig was the one who came up with the idea of like, well, let's do 2-sided charts. And I was like, well, that's perfect. So definitely something to think about with the different styles of baseball being played. Even in the minor leagues, it's a different style of ball.
No, absolutely.
So something to think about for sure. I think that's a really good idea.
What was the other thing I was going to ask? I forgot. I had it in flight.
No, I got a question for you here. Okay. So you're sticking with the 1 to 12 and the A to D ratings there, and I agree with what you did here because you guys have a fun, simple game to play, and don't take it simple is not a dig at this game at any means at all. It is for me. I enjoy the game because it's just. Everything's right here off the charts. You're not checking all kinds of crazy things. I really enjoy that. And I was wondering how the heck you guys were going to get more depth but keep it as simple to play as the first edition was. And I think you guys kind of found the sweet spot in that. Is just, I'm looking here, you added left and right to a couple of columns here on the picture chart. So you kept the left-right split, but it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't nearly as big as it was, when you tried the other way there. So I do like that. So I think you guys have done a good job. You did add some pop-ups here. Look on the power chart. That's where you got the pop-ups. So somehow you guys managed to keep the game true to its roots here, but adding the depth to that. Now, how long did it really take you to figure that out? Because you're thinking, if we got to add depth, we got to expand the game and make it bigger. So, I mean, just walk me through that process.
Well, it really kind of started right after we released the game last year.
You guys got hammered with everyone wanting to add things to this game because
oh, I love it, but it needs more cilantro.
and we enjoyed that.
I felt really bad at first because it was a great game as it is. But the same thing happened when Al Wilson came out with his Fast Drive Football, is that he had a great game here that wasn't overly complicated, and then everybody piled on about what it needed, and I'm going to add this, and we should add that, and I felt so bad because, you guys come out with a great game, Al come out with a great game, and everybody was so excited they just wanted to make it better in their own mind. And I felt so bad for you guys because every day it was like 10 more comments about, oh, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. And you guys took it all in stride, and you ended up incorporating some of those ideas into this one.
Well, honestly, go ahead, Craig.
I think what we did is we actually started encouraging it.
Yeah.
And encouraging them to make the mods and come up with it, and unrealizing that they were our guinea pigs. Come up with the different systems. How, does the extra dice work? Does the pop-ups work? And we were able to see their feedback from other people on how they were doing it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was kind of flattered by that. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is nobody says anything, right? Because
that's true.
Nobody's playing it, but when we're getting all this feedback, it's saying, okay, people are taking a shot at this. We're onto something. People are interested in what we're selling here. And, I mean, there are certainly ideas. Craig and I would get messages all the time, and they'd say, maybe try this. And, we just got pretty good at going, hey, that's not a bad idea, or that just doesn't fit into the vision of what we want. And I think that was the biggest thing, is Craig and I really kind of settled on a vision for what we wanted. And it was important. Yeah. And, it was just a matter of, does this fit into the vision of what we're going for? And there were certain things that we've played around with, whether it was the extra rating, or I was playing around with sort of another mini picture chart. We had all sorts of ideas we threw against the wall. And at the end of the day, we just sort of looked at it and we're like, does this fit into the really specific vision of what we want? And if we start, and we had people suggesting, like Craig said, adding an extra die, adding, roll modifiers, +1, +2, things of that nature. And we pretty much said, we're okay with this, or we're not going to do this at all. We don't want to add any extra dice. We don't want to add any dice modifiers because we don't want to have to do any extra math. We were very specific about what we want and what we don't. So I think having that strong vision and staying true, like you said, Dave, to the roots of the game has really paid dividends. And we like the game as it is, and I think people do as well.
What was I might have asked this last year too. What was the thought behind the 1d12 as opposed to the 2d6?
Well, when you're rolling 2d6s,
you have to weight the results, obviously, for that. And
I tried that, and it just got to be kind of a pain to try to figure out. You could roll, a 7 or an 8. An X amount of, percentage, or a 9 versus a 1 or a 12. And that just got complicated. And I said, if you roll a D12, there's equal chance of hitting each one. So it was more just a simplicity thing.
Kind of, do you take the strat?
Yeah, so some of the gameplay differences, I want to kind of break this down a little finer here. So what's new? Yeah, some of the things that I'm noticing here, and then expand on it. So I did notice that you do have the left-right splits built into the picture chart here. I noticed that. I noticed you have an extra column on base running, which we were talking to Craig off air about that. So we want to get into that, what that does. I did notice the pop-ups appear on the power. It looks like you've really done with the strategy play chart here, you've really kind of simplified that compared to the last one there for the bunt, the squeeze, and the hit and run. And then you have a rare play. So is that kind of the bigger changes you're going to see with gameplay is the left-right splits, the extra base running, the pop-ups, and the strategy chart? Is those kind of the big ones?
I think those are the big ones, yeah. And concerning the base running chart, in the previous iteration of the game, we were using the D column to do things like if a guy could beat out double play, or if a guy had to drop third strike if they were going to beat that out. And then we found a couple other reasons to use something like that, like a rundown and stealing home. So we had all these reasons to use like a little extra column, a little extra chart. So I was like, well, let's just add an extra column so we don't have to keep referencing somewhere else. So that's where the little exclamation point column came up. And really, I think probably the biggest change, I think, is going from the injuries to the rare plays, which I'm really happy with how that turned out. And again, that was Craig's idea to say, well, let's have one side of the card that just has rare plays.
Yeah, I do. I want to get to your charts in 1 second. So that last column, so the base running, you have A, B, C, D in the base running. And now that is your ratings for the player's speed, right? Mm-hmm. The players have a speed rating. Then you have the exclamation column. Now that is used for stealing home. Mm-hmm. And that is also used to possibly break up a double play or beat out a double play?
Yeah, so if a guy hits into a double play, if the base runner has a certain speed level, he might be able to beat it out and ends up being a fielder's choice.
Okay. Yeah, so that's new too, right? Beating out the double play, that's new.
That was in the first one.
Was it?
We used the D column for that.
Oh, I
instead.
See. Okay.
So
do we have the mid-70s break up the double play and start a fight?
Yeah, we should have done like spikes up. Yeah,
Willie Randolph runs into Freddie Patek and chaos ensues.
That would be fun.
So now I did notice in the PDF version that you have 8 different charts, and before anybody gets scared, they're all just variations. So you have the modern era chart. So it's one chart to play the game, but with that modern era chart, you get a second chart that is a modern era with injuries. So someone like myself who doesn't play a lot of injuries, I would probably not use the injury chart. So it's nice to have that option to use the injury chart or not. Mm-hmm. Then what you've done is you've done the dead ball chart with and without injuries. Mm-hmm. So there's 4 charts now in the game. There's modern era injuries, dead ball era, dead ball injuries. But you've also now in the PDF version made it possible to print them out either landscape or vertical, whatever the other one is. Portrait.
Yes.
So that's neat. So you have all these variations on the chart, and I kind of printed them out in the landscape here, as I just showed. You can't see it on the podcast, but I went with the landscape. I like it's a little wider. Everything's a little bit clearer. So what was the idea behind doing that by adding a separate injury chart and then also adding the different ways you can print them?
Well, we wanted people that got the PDF to have everything that the people would get in the physical. So we made the version with the injuries and without, and then we wanted to make sure everybody had dead ball. And then as far as like the portrait versus landscape, I just tried it one time, and I was like, I actually really like setting it up that way, because I just have a little stand that I put my charts on, and I kind of set it up that way. Craig likes the portrait ones. I like the landscape ones. Why not just give you a bunch of options and you can figure out what you want.
Yep. He's landscape and I'm portrait. I fold mine differently so that I can hold it in my hand while I'm playing in my lap.
There you go.
And the full layout just didn't work for me, and I couldn't get it to fold right in the landscape.
Yeah.
So how long after the first release, we talked about the changes in the game, do the two of you sit down and start coming up, okay, we've got this first one out, we've taken some of your considerations. How long in the process after version 1 was released did you start working on version 2? And have you already got things in mind for a possible version 3?
What do you think, Craig? When do you think we started?
The following week. I mean,
okay.
I mean, once we released it, we immediately started seeing things we needed, and people were commenting right away. As the first games were getting in hand, questions were coming out, and so we had a list going. So I think we took off maybe the first couple weeks just to feel it coming into the community and mail them all out, and then we started back again.
Nice. And
Question about gameplay here again. If I want to play, the 1980 Phillies against the 2020 Phillies or Cubs or whatever, is that all built in, ready to go? Is there any adjustments I need to make if I'm playing teams from different eras?
I don't think so. We really just divided it up into dead ball and modern era. And I understand that the term modern era is very loose because we're talking basically like 1921 through, 2022. We're talking over 100 years. So modern era is used very loosely. But, the idea is that the ratings are sort of quantified based on the averages of that particular season. So, and we talked about this last time we met on the podcast about how, an A-rated power hitter from 1930 is going to be different than an A-rated power hitter from 2022 or 1998, but in the game, they basically play the same. And that's just one of those things that it's a compromise we were willing to make. And it's the way it just is going to happen. Your guys are all going to hit home runs. A-rated power hitters are going to all hit home runs at the same rate.
And it's a fool's errand to say, well, that couldn't happen. You don't know. I mean, when you get to that point, it's like, seriously? How do you know it's not the case? It is what it is. This question is specifically for Craig because I see it on the software. What was your thought process in making how you graded or rated players public? Because when you put a team in there and you go to make the lineup, it says, okay, this is an A, this is a B, this is a C, this is a D.
I'm not sure I quite understand what you're asking me. How the ratings come about?
No. How, what was the thought process of making that public of how the ratings were, how players were rated? Because that's usually a very guarded secret for 99% of other game companies.
What do you think, Matt?
I think it was really just, if somebody, well, the thing is the ratings, the breakdown for like who gets an A, who gets a B, it changes from year to year.
Right.
That was kind of the secret. So, if somebody really wants to go in and do all that for every year, be our guest, but we already did the work for you. So, yeah. There's nothing really to hide because we've kind of done everything already. There's not really anybody left to rate in the history of MLB. So,
right.
We wanted to take those ratings and apply them to some other, some other team or make your own players. Be our guest. Honestly, we're definitely a little bit more open source than the average game. I think. Obviously, we're not giving out free copies of the charts and everything like that, but we price this stuff in such a way that we would hope that somebody would go, for $20 or $25, I'm just going to buy it, rather than try to just like screenshot it off YouTube, which I guess you could do if you wanted to, but for the price that you're paying, it's almost not even worth it,
Right.
Well, we have some really smart guys out there, and we heard about reverse engineering almost right off the bat.
Right.
They're stat heads, and I can reverse engineer. I can tell you how these are going to be. So what's the purpose? Nowadays, everybody's got that ability. Back in the 50s, like we talked earlier about how long it would take them to even build the system, that was why it was so locked down. Now, you can dump all this in a computer and have it spit out if you're, programmatically smart enough.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But now we've got it set up where, your kid's team can be in here. You can go in and pick the year that you want to compare them to in the major leagues, and you can set their stuff up.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And you could even probably create yourself and put you on any team in the game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
I've done my little league team and played it.
Have you? That's cool.
Yeah. That's neat. Fun. All right, so let's turn to Craig and the software. So I want to know, what can you do with the software and what is new with the software from the first version? Let's see.
What can you do? Well, you can load in your own teams and play the multi-year playoffs, like 80s versus 90s. You play the 83 Orioles against the 2021 Braves if you want. You create their lineups. You can save all that so that for future use, you're not constantly having to redo that. You can print out team cards. Like you see the cards that come in the box, you can actually print out team cards for any league, any season, any year across all those that we give you. So you can do the AAA, you can do the Korea, and you can have nice printed team cards, double-sided, like you get in the game itself. You can do it for the teams that you do specifically. If you're doing a league and you have 8 teams, you can print out just those 8 teams, even if they're in different leagues from Korea and the U.S. You can have those printed out at the same time. We've got the game sim in there again. We've added a coach AI who handles all the stolen bases and the bunts and the sacrifices and what else was there?
And just deciding when to tag up and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
how much of a challenge was it? Have you ever done AI before?
No. So it was kind of a little bit new in my area. I've done game design, but not necessarily the determinations type AI. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting, and basically it was basically formulated the way we play the game, mm-hmm. how we decide when we want the players to steal and all that, and we're like, mm-hmm. that works. And then when we put it in there and sim the games to see how it worked, it was actually making the results more realistic. The stolen bases, the caught stealing were coming up. Mm-hmm. The sacrifice flies and the tag ups are coming, and the squeeze plays. Mm-hmm. Most people don't do squeeze plays, but this brought in squeeze plays more often. So mm-hmm. it did that. Other things you can do, you can print score sheets. So you can print score sheets directly from the teams you made. And in this year's editions, we changed the software to fit just about every laptop. We've taken the screen area and shrunk it down to make it look better. It might mean you have an extra button to click or something, but we've made it so that's more presentable. And then we added box score replay.
This is my favorite part. This is the coolest thing. I was super excited about this.
We now give you, I think it's over 220,000 scheduled games that you can recreate. And then from 1909 on, we've actually given you the historical lineups also. Mm-hmm. So you can play historically all your games for that season. You can print those straight to score sheets without having to go back to team management and loading each team individually. You can print each game out as you're ready to play it. You can also sim games that you don't want to play. And probably one of the more favorite things is that it will maintain all the stats for you. Mm-hmm. And the games that you play manually, you can input those stats into it also. Gives you complete standings, team statistics. We put enough stats in there to make just about anybody stat happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just to be clear, honestly, you can't play Pocket Pennant Run in the software, right? Just to clarify that. But after you're done your game, you can go manually put in the stats, mm-hmm. right? So you're done your game, you manually put in. So if you just wanted to play all the Red Sox, let's say, you could sim the other games, play the Red Sox out, input their stats, and again, I think you said you can just do the final score, or you can put in all the stats for the batters and pitchers if you want. And so the software will keep all those stats for you.
Yes,
but you can't play the game in the software itself. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Okay,
so it's kind of like the box score thing is my favorite part of the new software, because it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the website DigiDugout or Digital Dugout.
Oh, yes, I love that
absolutely.
Site. Yes.
So, I mean, basically, you just look up a date and you can print off a scorecard with the names filled in. Well, this is very similar, though. You can look up a date and print out the as-played lineups, plus all the ratings are there. So you can just immediately print out a chart from any year. I think, how far does it go back, Craig? To like
1909.
1909. So you can go back and get the exact lineup. I think Craig even puts the correct starting pitchers and includes all of the relievers that pitched in that game as well on the scorecard.
Yes, yeah. We were looking at that offline here. That was mm-hmm. so. That was my favorite thing, is because, to be able to just go in, I went to 1980, picked the game, clicked on it, and I could print. It give you the option to print right to the score sheet, the lineups for that game, and it's beautiful. And you said it goes back to 1909.
Yes, that's for the lineups. But we gave the schedules from was it 1876? Whenever the first schedules came out.
I think 1871, right? Have they gone that far back or no?
I don't remember. I think we might start at 1876. I'm not sure.
Yeah, for the start of the National League.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
Yes, yeah, when we started National League. So that those schedules are all available. So Dave can still play his spiders in order, the score and put his scores in, and even keep his stats if he wanted. They just won't sim any of the games. However, he can't. We have included a second one sim for that called the Quick Sim, and it'll evaluate the teams. So his spiders would be evaluated versus other teams, their strengths, weaknesses, and come up with a modifier for a quick sim roll. So the games can be simulated. You don't have to play every game.
Let's be honest. That team didn't have any strengths.
It's true.
It's true.
So so there's two ways you can sim the game. A quick sim gives you a final score, and a full sim will give you all the stats for the game. Is that correct?
Now, the quick sim part, would that be something that would eventually be put onto a chart and sell with the game? So if you wanted to roll those out by hand and not use the software, is that a possibility in the future?
We talked about that, having just a little chart that would say, hey, if you want, here's the breakdown of how you do a quick sim. I think the formula, I don't know the formula offhand, but Craig came up kind of with the formula. It really is just a matter of kind of adding up ratings from both teams and comparing those ratings. But yeah, it's something we could think about.
Okay. I'm looking here right now for my new favorite team aside from the Spiders is the Chicago Whales, and you guys have the Chicago Whales.
Federal League.
That's unbelievable.
I got my Federal League hat on right now. This is the
is that what that's from?
St. Louis Terriers.
Now I'm looking to see if it. Okay, this one I don't know if it has the schedule in or not. The Federal League. No, I don't see the schedule here. So, but it does have the team, so I could put the team in. Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of oddball leagues, you've got, like we said, two Japanese leagues from 50 forward. You've got the Korean League from what, 05, Craig?
The Korean League is from 2005 on.
Right. You've got the last 22 seasons of AAA.
Yes.
Any more thought of maybe like the old PC, the third major league, the PCL, or any of those for future releases?
We're always toying with what new seasons to add and what new leagues to add. And we're working on
one. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got one in the works right now. We are working on the Women's Baseball League.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
A league of their own.
Yes.
And that's quite the challenge because unlike everywhere else, like MLB stats, they're all in nice, organized, using 3 and 4 and 5 sources to try to gather stats. Ladies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Craig bought, I think it was recommended, a book that is sort of like an encyclopedia of statistics, but it's a physical book. So manually entering all that information is quite a bit. And there's didn't you say there's like 2,000 players in those leagues? Over the course of that time, it was quite a bit.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of data there. But no one source has everything.
We should connect you with a guy who wrote the definitive book on the WHA that we had on not so long ago, and years of research he did to get everything.
Yeah.
That was a 20-year process to get all that, but yeah.
I can believe it.
Yeah, we're excited. We're really excited about that, and it coincides well. I was telling Craig about how they came out with that new miniseries about A League of Their Own.
Yes.
And I think we both watched it, and it was good. We enjoyed it. But maybe that we can ride the coattails of the success and sort of the new interest.
That would be very nice.
In the women's league. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a little bit of a process. It takes a while. I think Craig said he's got about a quarter of the stats inputted, but that's definitely expect that at some point this year. Beyond that, though, we're always looking at other leagues as well. It's just we're kind of like, we're like a kid in a candy store. We're like, oh, maybe we should add this, and maybe we should add this, and it's hard to just focus on one thing.
Any thought about minor leagues too? Because I know there's a lot of
We've got AAA on there for the last 22 years, which is fun because you can see some of these prospects who maybe never panned out, but they were legends in AAA. So that's kind of fun.
Baseball Reference now has a lot of that information, which they didn't necessarily have before.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of my favorite leagues is the Negro League, and we have
we
have that complete in there also.
Yeah,
from 20 through 48, which is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's the software has gone through this massive update. Added a ton of new features, and the cool thing about that is that whether you bought the first edition or the second edition, we hope you buy the second edition. But if you just bought the first edition, you will also get that update. We've had some people ask about whether or not they can use their old cards or the all-time great set that we just released about a month or two ago. If those cards are still good for the second edition, and the answer is yes. Everything that anybody has ever purchased in the past is still good with the second edition, and that was obviously done on purpose. So we didn't want to leave people.
Were there any changes to the cards themselves this time around? It's more the charts, right? The cards should be pretty much, except for the new seasons that come with the second edition. The other cards should still be the same, right?
Cards are the same, yeah. And we did not change the formulas for the ratings, so all the ratings are going to be the same. We just added more ratings to it, so all the player ratings are the same. So if you had old teams, or you wanted to finish up a league that you started, but you wanted to use the second edition charts, everything still applies. So it's all reverse compatible.
Now, on the cards, I'm looking at the cards that were sent here. So it looks like you have, 15 players on the card?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got, 10 and 5? Is that what it is?
Yeah, we added the DH. I don't think we had the DH on the original roster cards, but with the universal DH, we just went ahead and added them to the 2022 teams. And then I think previously what we did with the bench, for the bench players, was we just added the first 5 players based on how often they played. Now, for some teams, that was like 3 outfielders and an infielder and then a catcher. We always made sure to add a backup catcher, on the roster card. But this year we went with 2 infielders, 2 outfielders, and a catcher just across the maps, just so that it was, so your bench was evenly balanced. If you didn't have any infielders on your bench and one of your infielders got hurt, you're screwed. So we made sure to include 2 infielders, 2 outfielders, and a catcher on the bench.
How difficult is it to card a modern season when you have pitching staffs of 13, 14 and starters who go a whopping 3 innings and all that? I mean, how do you make that decision for someone like Dave, who doesn't necessarily follow even, the week in, week out stuff to make it playable?
Right. That was pretty hard. That was a challenge for sure. And Craig and I spent a lot of time talking about the fatigue number. So the fatigue number, I don't think it's any secret, is the average number of innings that starter would throw. Well, like you said, there are starters who started quite a few games, but really only were just sort of like, it'd almost be like a
they were openers. They would go 1 or 2 innings.
Sure. There you had your openers that pitched an inning or 2, and then you had sort of these piggyback games where everybody pitches like 3 innings and, trying all this new hybrid stuff. It's the line between a starter and a reliever is becoming really blurred, So that was definitely challenging, and it's probably going to become an even greater challenge as baseball.
You just make one, and his name is Johnny Holstaff.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody's just a pitcher. Yeah,
that was a term I learned when I was covering the Nats a few years ago. Oh, it's a Johnny Holstaff game, meaning it's spring training in August.
Right. Yeah. I mean, teams are just trying more wild things, so it's going to be harder to, like I said, differentiate between starters and relievers. So that's a bridge we'll cross when we get there.
Are there more? I was just looking at the Excel sheet that you guys sent me. It looks like there's a lot more players on the Excel sheet than there are on the cards. Yes,
we give you, not only do we give you the team cards with the more popular players and the ones that play the most, but we give you the full roster that was on that team that year, so that you can go, if you got players that didn't play as much but you still like them, you have that option to put them in there, and we give you all the traits for them. So, you get a lot of things. You get every player that ever played.
So that's on the spreadsheet, and that's also in the software. So if I were to print a team from the software, okay, yeah. Because I looked at
the software allows for, I think, 15 position players, and I had this issue yesterday. Not really an issue, but something I had to do. So the software allows for 15 position players, and I was inputting Game 6 of the 2022 World Series, and in that game, Edmundo Sosa played shortstop for the Phillies, and he actually wasn't one of the top 15 guys who played on that team that year. He just happened to be playing in the World Series. So all you have to do is swap out one of those 15 guys and swap in the guy that you want. So I swapped out somebody who didn't play in the World Series and swapped in Edmundo Sosa and put him on the scorecard. It's a very simple 2-click process. But that's something worth knowing, is that you kind of have a 15-player bench, essentially, that you build your lineups from. But if you need a player that doesn't show up in those 15, it's still in the software. You just have to.
I'm looking at the 1919 Boston Braves, and I want to say there's 39 player batters and another maybe dozen pitchers on here. So, so with the software or the Excel spreadsheet here, you get the full boat. So, but just with the limitation on the physical cards, you're limited.
But I would think some of those would also be pitchers who batted. Remember, there's no DH in 1919 as well, so they would already be in the system once. So I don't remember who was the ace of that, but so for those records, it would be a duplicate. So they'd have their batting ratings and their pitching ratings.
Yeah, if you look on there, you'll see that the ones that all the pitchers are labeled as a P, and that'll be all their batting traits on there. And we actually included that into the software this year also. Was that there's a third tab on the when you add a team. It gives you batters, your pitchers, but it also has your pitching traits on your pitchers, batting traits on there also.
So that wouldn't count against the limit, Dave. That's just the pitchers would already be included on there. Okay. So they probably use 39 for the whole year.
Yeah, no. What I was just getting at is that when you have the physical cards, there's only so many you can put on there. But in the software or on the Excel spreadsheet, you have almost is it everybody that played on the team, or just more players on the team?
Everybody that played on the team.
Okay, so even if they played just like 1 or 2 games, do you have them listed?
Should be.
Okay.
I did have cut off somewhere. It depended on the stats.
Okay.
You know, if they didn't have some of the stats, then I obviously didn't include them. Not every player had stats available to get, and so it just wasn't a use on including them.
Okay. But I'm just wondering for someone that wanted to play like an as-play game, and maybe their favorite player, you know, Bucky McSmoke played one game. You know, I'm related to Bucky McSmoke. He played one game for the Cleveland Indians in '62, and I want to play that game. I just didn't know if he was in the game.
If he's there, he's got stats.
So if he has stats, he's in there.
If he hadn't at bat, right? In that bat or through a third of an inning.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends on the stats that were available. If he didn't have the stats that we could make traits out of, then he wouldn't be in there. But you could go in and actually create them, because there is a spot in there where you can actually create a player. You can put in his batting stats if you could find them, or you can just give them. You know, that's how I put myself in there. I just put in my stats that I thought I had back then. Or, you know, of course, I'm a power hitter, so I was an A. So
yeah. No, that's a great way around that, though, because if Bucky McSmoke is not in there, you can add him and just put in some stats the best you can, and so he can play. So that's fantastic that you could do something like that. That's great.
Wasn't he also a guest star on Rocky and Bullwinkle and his brother Hookie?
There you go.
Serious question, because one of the extreme pluses of this game is the fact that you can hold it in your hand, that everything is pretty much the size of a playing card. Is there any thought of, because we talk about trying to get new people into the hobby all the time and younger people in the hobby, of making a phone app out of this game so that it would be completely self-contained on your phone?
It's been discussed a lot.
How difficult would that be to do? And elaborate a little more on that, please.
Well, it's about learning the language.
Okay.
You know, I'm a one-man shop here, so
no. I wasn't debating that it happened tomorrow, but considering what one of the strengths of this game is the fact that the footprint is so tiny.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we've played with it, and we've played with it.
Okay.
It's something we really want to do, but there's some limitations in there. There's some costs in there. Mm-hmm. So, and then trying to keep the cost down, not charge for everything, it gets to a point where it starts tumbling down.
Well, maybe even this just came to mind was maybe having the teams available. So instead of me having to print teams out, I could get on my phone and say, okay, I'm going to play the 1908 Cubs versus whoever, and I could just have the teams appear on the phone. So I could roll my dice with my charts, but instead of printing out the teams or looking on the computer, I could just swipe back and forth for the two teams.
That was the idea, was if we were to put anything into an app, it would be just the database, right? We wouldn't really probably put the Sims or anything like that. We'd keep it basically just to be a database of statistics, so you could look them up on the fly and not have to have the software. But I mean, with the app, like Craig said, this is a whole totally different programming language that we would have to learn. Who knows? It's certainly on our list of things to explore. But
would that work on a browser? Just for grins and giggles?
We've looked at that too, whether or not something could be web-based. I mean, Craig's making this software in Python, and transferring that data in the online. So, yeah, we've certainly talked about it. I think the big thing Craig wanted to do was just make sure the software was really working well, no bugs, just was really a good working product. And then once we're happy with that, then we could talk about maybe where else it would show up.
I do have another software question here. Is it possible in the software for me to create a couple of custom teams and then print out that to play? So in other words, I want to take Babe Ruth and Dwight Evans and Dummy Hoy and Rick Burleson and Louis Tiant, and I want to put them on one team, and then I want to go and create a second team with some other of my favorite players. Is that possible within the software to go and start picking and choosing guys from all the different teams to create a team?
Not only can you pick it and choose it from different teams, different eras, and different leagues, so you can combine Korean, Japan, AAA, and your MLB players all on the same team if you want.
Oh, nice.
It's in the add a team part off the team management, and that's one of your options. I think it's option 3 is to create a team, and you pick each player that you want and put them on there.
That's going to be fun.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
That's going to be real fun.
Then you can print those cards up.
And you can print out the sheets, right? So you can create your team and create your lineups, and I can just print it out and have everything ready to go, right?
It becomes just like any other team in there.
Perfect.
Is it possible within the software to have multiple different custom leagues? So let's say you wanted to do 99 Spiders, 62 Mets, and then when other equally horrific teams, and then when you're done with that project, let's say you wanted to do maybe, greatest Yankee teams in history, greatest Red Sox teams in history. Can you do more than one custom league and have the stats kept?
It does not keep the stats from the custom leagues right now. That is something that they've asked us, and we're looking at strongly right now. Is one of the next things, the next upgrade is to be able to keep stats from outside of the box score.
Upon release, it's just the box things you can do a box score, and that's only MLB, right? You can't do that for the Japanese or the Koreans or anything. Okay,
correct.
But that's something you guys are looking at for, if not this version, then, fingers crossed, version 3.
We'll probably see that in the next update.
Okay.
Ron, any other questions here?
What is there something that, I'm sure you've already started to think in the back of your mind about what you'd want for version 3. And I think we talked about some of that. Pie in the sky type deal. What are you two hoping to think about for maybe 2.5 or whatever? Because I know that every other game company releases stuff on outside of developing more leagues. I mean, what are you kind of hoping that didn't quite make the cut this time, but you're looking for the next time?
There's a number of things that Craig and I both said, let's wait till the next one for that. And I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I think our hope is at a certain point we reach sort of a game that we're really happy with, and then basically what we're just updating is the software. Like we want to find a game engine that works really well and that is sustainable. That's kind of my goal, and maybe we add a few things here and there, but as far as the game engine itself, I think we're pretty happy with that, and we'll see how the community likes it. And I'm sure there'll be more suggestions, and we'll take more suggestions, and we're happy to get those and incorporate things where we feel like it fits into the vision of the game. And then I mentioned, we've had a lot of requests for maybe adding more more complexity to it, which we're certainly open to entertaining. It would be, I don't know if it would be something like Pocket Pennant Run Advanced or something like that, where we use more statistics, more data points. But that would probably be the only other like big change we would make to that. Also, it's worth mentioning that our group, we call it C&M Games, our company.
That's new this year, right?
Yeah, so Craig went through the process of now we're an incorporated business, which is
congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. We're going to be releasing we're going to be releasing another game. It's actually a game that it's a baseball game.
Oh, okay.
It's a baseball game. It's a game that I created right at the onset of the pandemic, right when I started getting into tabletop stuff. And it was actually through the process of promoting that game that I found out about other tabletop sports games and ultimately met Craig. So it's a game called Small Ball, and it's more of a board game than a simulation. So it's not a simulation. You don't play real players, but it is a press your luck dice rolling game that involves the strategy involved in baseball. It's great.
No one ever wants a whammy.
No whammy, no whammy, no whammy.
Yeah, it is a little press your luck in a sense. So think like, I don't know, like Farkle or Yahtzee, but it's baseball, baseball strategy. I sold a couple. I know there's a number of guys who bought Pocket Pennant Run because they had heard about Small Ball, because I sold about 50 copies of it, and I was just making it in my basement. But we're going to try to get a nice looking game sometime at 2023. And like I said, it's not going to be for everybody. If you're into hardcore Sims, it's probably not going to be your thing. But if you've got casual baseball fans, or you've got kids who want to play a baseball game that incorporates strategy, incorporates the calls that a manager would make.
Nice.
It's a fun game. So we're going to re-release that in a nice looking package at some point in 2023.
Oh, that's cool.
Great.
So we're going to expand our library a little bit.
So my last question would be, what did you two learn most from the release of the last game, and which working on this stuff over the course of the last year? You've incorporated as a company. You took a lot of people's suggestions. You've expanded your library. What did you two learn most from the whole process?
For me, I think it's staying true to our goals, not allowing everybody else to give us segues. That if it didn't fit in our model, then it's a good chance that we were going to not go that way. Because, it's easy to really get off schedule.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, very similar, stay true to your vision, and everybody's got an opinion, and nobody's afraid to say their opinion on the internet.
No.
And we dealt with that early on. I mean, we had some people, giving us the business just because we were new and we were different, and it initially I was kind of put off by it a little bit, but now it's kind of like we see how many people enjoy this game and how it makes them happy. And I think it's given us a little bit of confidence to not just go the directions that people are telling us to go, but to go, hey, we have the confidence in that we have a good game here and we're going to stick to this. And people have responded well. So it's been very cool to see such a growing community. We're almost at 500 members in our Facebook page. We're super close to that.
Oh, good.
We have people posting stuff every day, and it's just really cool to see. By the way, before I forget, we are going to do some more leagues. We did 2 leagues this past year. We did a 1964 league, and we did a 1990s league. And we had, I think, 8 people in the 64 league and 10 people in the 90s league, and both were really fun. We definitely plan on doing more leagues. We'll probably stick to 8 teams per league. I think 10 was a few too many, but probably 8 teams per league. So once this game gets out and people start getting it, we'll definitely start up a league here in the next couple months, probably do a handful of leagues throughout the year. And if there's enough interest, we could do 2 leagues at the same time. But we definitely encourage people to check out the Facebook group. If you want to see what happened in all our previous leagues, you can find that on our website. I put a new page in there that has the final results of the leagues, who won, and stuff like that. So that's really been fun, and Craig is so good about putting together leagues, and that's kind of where it all started. I was playing in one of Craig's leagues, so nice. Definitely look forward to that. That's going to be really fun.
Yep. I like the fact that you guys have stuck to your guns and stuck to the plan, and we're playing some games myself, Ron and myself, and there's things the game does and the things that the game doesn't do, and they make no bones about it. And that's the same thing here with Pocket Pennant Run. So you can't make this something that it isn't. Enjoy it for what it is, because it is very enjoyable. Yeah. And so, you're always going to get the people that want this and want that, but that's not what the game is meant to do. The game is meant to do this, and it does it very, very well. So I want to know, this is November 10th. We're recording this November 10th of 2022. I want to know when Pocket Pennant Run 2 is available, where to buy it, and how much it's going to cost, and what you get.
So the both versions of the game are going to be coming out tomorrow, November 11th. The store will go live at about 6 a.m. Central Time. That's
no pounding on the glass at 5:30. Okay,
exactly.
It'll be there when it's there.
Exactly. We have people pounding on the glass already, so it'll be. We've been doing a countdown on our Facebook page just so people know when it comes out. So 6 a.m. Central Time, we're going to open up the store. You can go to pocketpennantrun.weebly.com, and Weebly is Weebly. There's a link to our store. We're going to have 3 options. We'll have the base game set, which is the physical set. That's $24.99. We'll have the print and play PDF, which is $14.99. And with the physical, you get the box, you get the dice, you get 8 physical cards, 8 physical roster cards, the most recent 8 playoff teams. You get your directions, the manager's handbook. You get the directions for the software, how to use the software. You get the mini pencil and the 4 scorecards, all come in a really nice looking box. The PDF, you get all 8 of those different variations on the charts, like Dave mentioned. You get the 8 roster cards for the teams. You get your directions, and you get your software. And I forgot to mention the software as well with the physical. You get the software with all versions. And then finally, we're going to be offering sort of a package deal. We still have about, 2 or 3 dozen of our all-time great roster set, which is a 30-card physical card set that has all-time greats for each of the MLB teams. We were selling that for $14.99. But we're going to package that together with the physical set. If you'd like to get both of them, that's $34.99. So you're actually saving $5.
Oh, nice.
So if you'd like to get the all-time great set and the physical set together, you can buy them both. Cool thing is the all-time great set will fit inside the box for the original game. So it's kind of an expansion, I guess you could think of it as. So we'll send it all inside the original box. So those are our 3 options. And if you buy the print and play, you can download it immediately. The physical, Craig usually sends the stuff out pretty quickly. Now we're going to get probably flooded with a lot of orders here on the first couple days. So, allow us some time to get those out. But, we've had people that get their game in just a couple days. So,
and remember, on the 11th is a federal holiday, so you can't really ship anything tomorrow either. So
right, yep. So it's going to have to probably wait till Monday. But yeah, we'll get them out as quick as we can. We're really excited to see what the reception is. And we have people who ask, like, is it really like a big deal to get the second edition if you have the first edition? And honestly, we feel like it is. I mean, we feel like it's a better game overall. The first game was good, but we feel like we've improved so much stuff.
Remind people again, the new teams outside of the 2022 major leagues that may not have been, if you buy the new version, what new teams come with there as compared to the first?
In the database, you mean?
Yeah, and what are the new additions in the database for this year, Craig?
2022 Japan League, the 2022 Korean League.
The college, right?
The college, yes, you have the 2022 college teams.
Right.
I think it was the 32 or 30, between 32 and 50 teams from the college league.
Okay.
We use that as a bonus in the mid-year, and that's now included. You get the 2022 AAA teams, and I think that's all the new teams.
No, there was more than you didn't have till 1950 back last year for the Japanese.
How many stuff back? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So how many new Japanese seasons are in this new version?
That came out as an expansion in the mid-year, but that's also included this year, and it's from 1950 on to present, 2022.
So there's quite a bit if you haven't bought the new from the first version. It's not just the new stuff, but really a deeper historical dive back too. So
right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And the dead ball charts as well.
That's true. The dead ball charts.
Big new addition. So you're really kind of getting 2 games in one. So that's a really big addition. A lot more bang for your buck.
Now, if I was going to play a dead ball team against a modern team, which chart would I use?
It's a good question.
I mean,
I would play one of each.
One inning dead ball, one inning. Change by inning.
Like a home field advantage. Whoever's your home. If your dead ball team's home team, you go by their rules. And then just like when we had the DH and the pitchers hitting, depending on whose park you were in, it's the rules you played.
I mean, I guess conceivably you could flip your cards over each half inning, So presumably the modern team would clobber the dead ball team because they'd be hitting more home runs, and their batting average would be a little bit better. But if you're going for historical accuracy, you would get it.
You're not playing a team from 1906 against 2020 if you're looking for historical accuracy anyway. But.
Right, that's true. You're living in a fantasy world, but just to see how it would all play out would be kind of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's one question we ask a lot of the people that are on that have games with many different seasons, because you can't even fathom what would happen if you played the 1908 Cubs versus the 28 Cubs. You know what I mean? You have no idea what would happen. I mean, the athletes today are just so much more trained, and they're better. They're a lot richer. They have better facilities. So I would think that they would probably clobber the old team, just like hockey would and football would. But you never know, and we will. And like Ron always said, we will never know. It is all just kind of fictional pie in the sky when we play these two teams from 100 years apart against each other.
It is, it's your game, your rules. It's something that we've said 1,000 times before. And so
I think the biggest thing really would just be the pitching. I have to believe that modern era pitchers would just blow away, the older batters from
I think that Ty Cobb didn't see a lot of fifth inning pitchers that could go at 98, 99.
I don't think so. It's interesting to think about how Ruth would fare against Max Scherzer.
Aaron Judge against a spitballing 75-mile-an-hour Burley Grimes. They'd be feeling that rain like Craig will tomorrow, right?
That'd be fun.
I want to see Crazy Schmidt pitching in the modern league. That's what I want to do from the Spiders. He was awesome.
Anyone with a Bugs Bunny style windup.
This is true. All right. Matt, give us that website one more time before we close out here.
It's pocketpennantrun.weebly.com, and the Weebly part is Weebly.
All righty. And that is coming out tomorrow, November 11th, depending on when you're listening to this. It is coming out on November 11th. And there's 3 different versions of the game that Matt already explained to us. And, it is vastly upgraded over one. Not that the first game was bad at all, but this is a lot more in depth, a lot more fun. I think I'm looking at here. I like the different shots that you get in the whole bit. The software, Craig's done a terrific job with that software as far as making it streamline a little bit better. You can just click on a game and get any box score you want, print it right out, boom, you're playing in just a couple of minutes. So I really like that. So anyway, Matt McKeever and Craig Harris from Pocket Pennant Run, thanks for joining us here on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
By the numbers, this has been the Digital Dice episode 158. We talked with Matt McKeever and Craig Harris of the Pocket Pennant Run, their new game there. Looks pretty good, Ron.
They are so excited. It does look very good, but they are so excited. And the fact that they get, a second annual version, and that they are very receptive to what you and the community want. And even if you haven't talked about, if you bought the first one, what's new outside the software, there's a whole new library of teams that are this year. And again, if you buy the printed set, it is a deck of playing cards.
Yep. It's not that big of a footprint at all.
Of a footprint.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. I enjoy playing it. And I think the additions to the software is really going to get me playing this game where I can just jump into any game in any season pretty much, especially with the MLB, and just print out those lineups on there. Their score sheets are so good because when you print them out, there's all these different varieties of score sheets. You can have, both teams on one. You can have one for one team, one for the other. That's what I like. I like individual teams. Mm-hmm. So the team at bat is the score sheet on the top, and I keep track of stuff, and it keeps all the spare players, all the spare pitchers, and so I can go into any game I want, within reason. Obviously, I went to 1980, picked the game, printed out the score sheets, batting lineups are there, all the player ratings are there as well. So you don't got to go look at anyway. It's all there on the score sheet. That's all you need.
If you've never played a baseball sim, if you're someone like Dave, for instance, who is a casual baseball fan at most, and we won't go into what he tells me when we're off there about baseball. I still speak to the man anyway. I think that this is the perfect intro baseball game. If you're trying to get someone into baseball simming, or if you're a football or another sports simmer and want to try some baseball sims, or if you got a kid or a grandkid that you kind of want to introduce, you can't beat the price point.
This is a real easy game to play,
and it's just going to hook you into it. And if you don't want to go any further than that, this will meet every need that you have forever.
Yep. No,
but
this is a fun one.
As far as, and I don't mean intro to be an insult. I'm just saying that it is that easy to pick up and learn how to play.
And
so
just with the software, being able to play any team against any team, you can even sim the games if you want in the software and have fun with that. You can input manually the results of a game, and it keeps all the standings for you. So it's really quite versatile. I really like what they've done with 2.0, and I'm hoping that it makes it on my table a lot more this year with the things they've done. Anyway, ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com. That's the website. 978-751-DICE. That's the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email, and over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. And don't forget, Black Friday show coming up. If you're a developer and you have a game going on sale or anything going on with your company or your game, let us know. digitaltodice@yahoo.com. And if you're a player in the community and you hear of anything, please turn us on to that too, so we can go and check that out, because we want to have a nice big Black Friday show that benefits everybody, and it's one of our favorite shows of the year to do. So anyway, 3 Stars will be back next week. And Ron, thanks for joining us.
As always.
Talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.